Welcome to the Retirement Plan Playbook, hosted by Brent Pasqua, Matthew Theal, and Joshua Winterswyk of Evermont Wealth. This podcast dives deep into investment strategies, retirement planning, and current events, equipping you with the insights needed to craft a robust retirement playbook adaptable to any political or economic climate. Join Brent, Matthew, and Joshua as they guide you through the complexities of retirement planning, offering expert advice to tackle challenges in the later stages of your journey. It's time to build your optimal retirement playbook. Now, let's dive into today's episode.
Welcome into the Retirement Plan Playbook. I'm your host, Brent Pasqua. I'm an advisor at Evermont Wealth. I'm here with our certified financial planners, Matthew Theal and Joshua Winterswyk. Guys, how you doing?
Hello. I'm happy we're trying a video again. We haven't done a Zoom podcast like this in a long time.
I think the last time we did this, was COVID?
Yeah.
It's been a while.
And I thought they worked out pretty good during COVID. It's just maybe our audio wasn't as good at that time.
Yeah, our audio wasn't as great, but we have these better mics now. And where editing technology's gone, I don't think there'll be much of a difference in sound quality, but fingers crossed.
So people will be able to watch this episode, is that correct?
I'm hoping they will be, yes, on YouTube.
Okay. Well, let's jump into it. We wanted to come on here to talk about and break down the most impactful tax planning provisions that came from the One Big Beautiful Bill Act. That was signed in on July 4th. And we wanted to kind of go through what those major tax updates are and how they're affecting families, how they're affecting retirees and business owners and investors. I think there's some real critical points here that we want to go through. Do you know how many pages that thing was?
I don't, but I know that it was big and beautiful. That's what I was told.
That's a mouthful.
And it's not just, I think, the political side of it. This bill has real financial planning implications. And I think that's where we really want to inform people is like, hey, where are some things that you can do to take advantage of some of these updates and law changes? And what can you do to be prepared? Because some of this is significant. And I think the first one that is the most significant is the SALT cap increase. And do one of you guys want to kind of break us down on what that is?
Do you want me to do it, Josh?
Yeah, sure. Whatever you'd like. I mean, it's pretty simple here, right?
Yeah, so the SALT is the state and local tax deduction for pretty much blue states, right? The main states it impacts is California and New York. And under the original Trump tax cuts from 2017, the tax deduction was pretty much removed. But now for 2025, they've added it back and raised the cap up to $20,000 and $40,000.
20,000 for single, 40,000 for married filing jointly.
How'd I do, Josh? Anything I missed?
No, I think the first thing is when the limit to 10,000 was actually implemented originally for people that live in California, specifically where we have like high state tax and high property taxes, it really kind of hurt those people. So I think that people in those states that have those high taxes, this is a pretty significant change. Would you agree?
I think so. I'm curious to see how it's going to impact my own tax situation, because when the original bill went into effect, it truly didn't have much of an impact on me just because where I was in my life. Like I didn't own a home yet. I wasn't paying a significant amount of state taxes yet. But now, so, it's been almost 10 years since that point. Incomes have grown. I own a home now. So I'm curious to see if it's going to help me.
I think one other thing to be mindful of is it does revert back in the bill back to 10,000 in 2030. So this isn't permanent.
Right. And what this allows people to do is write off what you pay in state income taxes, property tax, and sales tax, right? So this could be significant, especially if you're closer to that cap.
Yeah, which, just even thinking, like Matt said, thinking about my own property taxes, just with property taxes, it was over the previous limit. So this is going to be, unless we'll talk about it right now, but unless your income's over a certain level, because there is phase outs here, it is going to be a benefit for a lot of Americans, especially in those high tax states.
Yeah, I
and
think
so go ahead. Matt.
I was going to say with them reverting to like getting rid of it, Josh, in 2029 and then going back to 10K in 2030, what that screams to me is, hey, you better vote Republican so you can keep this benefit in 2029, 2030. Kind of like just what happened with the current tax law.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think it's important to know, I mean, this is great for clients making under 500K of AGI. Because there is a phase out starting at 500,000 to where this benefit isn't as impactful for you.
Right, which means that if you make over $500,000, you have to be very careful that you could be then phased out to not be able to get these deductions. And I think one thing that people probably from like a planning perspective want to be very mindful of is if you're, thinking about doing a Roth conversion, or you're thinking about, something with your RSUs, like your employee stock options or certain timings with bonuses, you probably need to be careful to try to either push that or potentially do it in that year if you know you're going to get phased out in the following year. I mean, there's just a lot of things for high income clients or anybody, in a lot of situations, essentially for anybody, that you could probably be careful of from a planning perspective because you could get phased out and lose this deduction. I mean, this is a significant deduction that could help your return.
So you don't want to make too much money is what you're saying.
You want to plan out, I think, how much money you're making if you can at all and manage it. I wouldn't go do, if you make 450,000, $100,000 Roth conversion, right? Because now that's going to put you over that phase out. I wouldn't go cash in a bunch of employee stocks if you're close to those thresholds. So there are things I think that can be planned around with this.
Yeah, and I think even for like dual income households, right? You have one person making close to the threshold, might be thinking about going back to work or taking a big promotion. And I think it just, really, you want to know, right? So you need to ask more questions than just saying, I'm going to make more income. Is this going to actually be worth it for me? What is those tax implications? So you're not walking into this new situation blindly and then being completely surprised that you made more income, but because of the deduction phased out, you are going to effectively pay a lot more tax.
Let me ask you this though. Could this make home ownership more attractive for high property tax areas?
There's a lot of variables to that question. To just say blindly, like, I think, yes, it would be a positive for those people that do qualify for the cap increase and the deduction. But then also at the same time, is it really going to make or break the decision of moving to this, high property tax, state tax state? I'm not sure.
Well, from California's standpoint, most people are probably paying property taxes to get up and near the cap anyways on, what would essentially be a starter home to a normal family home.
Very true.
So, buying a bigger home, let's call it, in that $3 to $5 million range, I don't think this bill is really concerned with that person at all.
Yeah.
What it could do, if you're running an analysis, though, in my mind, is like it could make looking at somewhat maybe of a bigger home or a home that might have an increased property tax rate an option affordability wise with that offset compared to the year before.
And I will reiterate what Josh said, that this is a massive win for people who live in New York and California.
It is. I agree. 100% agree. And I think also, one thing I will say with people who are earning more and getting closer to the phase out is it becomes more of a conversation around how I can defer more income through these years as well. So it's like, are you deferring the maximum you can? Are you asking your employers or other options to defer more income while I do have this benefit but don't want to be phased out? So again, I think it just raises a lot more questions, especially as you're getting closer to that 500K income level.
I agree. A win for a tax change, I'll tell you that.
Absolutely.
All right, let's get into the one that I think a lot of people who listen to this podcast want to know about. And that's a new additional standard deduction for taxpayers age 65 and over. And this is what they've called in there sort of like the senior citizen discount, where now you can have a deduction to write off some of your Social Security taxes. And a lot of people thought now their Social Security is going to be tax-free. As we talked about on the previous podcast, that's not necessarily true. But maybe you guys can get into a little bit about what this actually means.
So funny about that, I had a listener reach out to me and say, hey, Matthew, you said on the podcast that it was a tax credit, but I got an email from the Social Security Administration saying that my Social Security is now tax-free. Did you two know that after the bill was passed, Social Security sent out an email to all participants saying that Social Security is now tax-free?
No.
They did.
Is that a scam?
It's not a scam.
Is it
I don't know if it was like an error or if it was like lack of communication or not understanding the bill. Like, like people weren't talking or something, but yeah, it's a deduction with a phase out. So again,
and is that just what their, like, I guess, interpretation, the IRS interpretation of what it is? Because like clearly a deduction is a lot different than income being tax-free.
Well, no, it's not from the IRS. The Social Security Administration sent it out.
And I thought that was the whole reason why they structured it this way. It was because it was too hard to restructure the IRS code to actually making it tax-free. So the compromise was offer the deduction. I have though also experienced over the last few weeks, a lot of our clients telling me that Social Security is now tax-free.
Right.
Yeah.
They have said that to me, not referencing that they got an email but just through whatever media or resources that they're listening to, reading, or their neighbor, don't know. It's not clear amongst all of them, but a lot of people saying that, oh, now my Social Security is tax-free, which is
all right, well,
kind of concerning.
Well, let's get to the facts though. So what changed? Tell the listeners what changed. What are the facts?
You get a deduction if you're 65 and plus and make under 150,000 if you're married, and then under 75,000 if you're single.
Right.
So
and it's a phase out. It's a phase out that ends at 175 and 250. So the top of that phase out, you have to, if you make more than 250K, then you would receive no deduction. Sorry, but go ahead.
So it doesn't help high earners at all. It doesn't help high earning retirees.
No,
is what I'm seeing.
Correct.
I'm looking at this data.
And the standard deduction is what, $6,000 per taxpayer?
Correct. Over 65.
Yeah, but I think
Over
it's an additional on top of the standard deduction, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So it's an additional 6, so 12,000 per couple.
Yeah. I mean, that's extremely helpful.
It is. Just I feel like if we're looking at from like how this benefits a lot of our clients, I mean, it depends on where their income's coming from and how much they're making. But just with RMDs, there's a potential that some of our clients and clients in general might get phased out here.
Yeah,
So,
and that's what I wanted to talk about too, because now we could really start to coordinate retirement income streams to stay under that threshold. I mean, you could essentially delay some withdrawals. You could use Roth money. And more importantly, I would think that you're maybe using qualified charitable distributions to reduce taxable income to still meet the RMDs, but to stay under the threshold.
Yes.
Yeah, there's a lot of planning strategies here. It's kind of like how you plan for Medicare now. You got to plan for the Social Security.
And when does this expire? This isn't permanent either.
To 2028. So, yeah, that's good. That means vote Republican in 2029, right, guys? That's what this is saying.
That's what that's saying. 100%.
Democrats are going to come tax your Social Security. Vote Republican.
all a part of the scheme, right? The plan to gain votes. But yeah, I think to piggyback on what you said, Brent, this is actually really creating, a need to financially plan an income plan specifically if you are over 65 and want to qualify for this deduction. You have
Right.
to be pretty specific on making sure that you are doing this. Because I know you guys said, high earners, it doesn't necessarily apply, but, are you creating that income? Is it permanent? Is it through a pension? Is it through distributions from your retirement plans? So is there a way to lower your income through these years to take that maximum credit? And in my opinion, from our clients, yes, there is strategies to do that, right? Like you
Yep.
said, with taking it from Roth, brokerage, whatever it may be, to kind of lower that income that's being stated to make sure you're getting this full deduction. Because $12,000 deduction for a married couple is a lot of money. Absolutely.
Absolutely.
And could this, with the combination of the SALT increase and the senior deduction, could this help people make the decision of retiring? Right? Because it is creating, it's closing the income gap if you are qualifying for a lot of these deductions, right? You're not going to pay as much tax. So does that get you closer to retirement if you haven't already and you're over 65?
It's just keeping more money in your pocket now.
Right.
Especially in California. You take the SALT and you take this one. I mean, these are two outstanding wins for somebody who's retired living in California or living in New York.
Yeah, living in high tax states. Absolutely.
Yep. All right, let's get on to the next one. Let's talk a little bit about the estate tax exemptions that were made permanent, which I think is something that probably doesn't affect as many people, but it is something that is impactful. And this is the amount that you can give away during your life or at death without paying federal, state, or gift tax on. They've now made it permanent that I think it's 13.61, or did they move that to 15 million?
15 million.
15.
Okay, so that's locked
Per
in
person.
now. Per person, $15 million can be passed on from your estate to, let's call it, after death or during your life to your kids or family or whoever. And that's indexed for inflation. So that essentially means that, you can pass on more money to your kids or to your families without estate tax. That is a significant change. I think when I started in the business of working with clients and doing financial planning, that was during the Bush administration. I believe, you can go back and fact check, that at certain points, it was like $1 million back then that you were able to pass on. And here we are, 2 decades later, and it's now 15 million that you could pass on.
It's really 30 if it's husband and wife too, right?
Correct. Yep.
Because per person.
Yep.
So I think this is important for that number, that 30 million. Because one question we always get from a lot of our clients is, how much money am I allowed to give my children? And then we have to, explain how estate taxes work. But with this nice round $30 million number, most people don't have net worth exceeding that, right? Like typically, I think we see it in the state of California, the average person who we're helping is somewhere between, let's call it 2 million up to 10 million, right?
Mm-hmm.
So essentially, this means you could give away all of that wealth during your life or after your life tax-free. And that's a big win.
I looked it up. 2007, the estate tax threshold was 2 million. And it wasn't portable, and the top estate tax rate was 45%. A lot different than what's going on today.
Brent, how long have you been in the industry, man?
Yeah, a long time. The question I always get, that I think it pertains a lot to people that listen to this podcast, is a lot of people ask, if I inherit money from my mom or my dad or my parents' estate, how much taxes am I going to pay? This isn't talking probably really about that unless their estate's over $30 million. When a parent passes away, if they have a retirement account like an IRA, you have your own set of rules that when you inherit it, you'll pay taxes on that. Most likely. I mean, there's a lot of variables to that, but let's just say you'll pay taxes on it. But their house will have a step up in basis, and you may not pay taxes on that. Again, there's other stipulations and variables there. This isn't talking about that. This is essentially talking about somebody whose net worth is over $30 million. And when they do pass on, anything above $30 million is going to be highly taxable. And so there are tools that high net worth people will utilize to try to reduce their estate tax exemptions, or what they're going to have to their exclusion and what they're going to have to pay in taxes. But this is really talking about making it so somebody that has more money, like 15 million per person, can pass on more money without this massive tax bill that would hit. But, there's a lot of, people that have over 30 million. There's a lot of people that are in the $1 billion. This really probably doesn't help them all that much because it's not really moving the needle for extremely high net worth people.
No, it's not. But I think that, what I see too, and especially for the client base that you were talking about, it alleviates some of that worry because there is a lot of misinformation around taxes and estates. So it makes it kind of easier on the planning for those people to not be so worried about paying estate tax. And with that simple explanation that you just gave, Brent, I think a lot of people can take a deep breath, even if you thought you're getting close to that, and say that, I can gift. I'm not going to be worrying about that specific type of tax.
Okay, so anything else that we want to talk about with the estate tax exemptions, or we want to keep going?
No, I think you covered it well, Brent.
Okay, so let's talk about the new Trump accounts for newborns. Matt, why don't you get into that for us?
Oh, I'm super excited to talk about this. So the new Trump accounts are every child born between 2025 and 2028 is going to get a new account with $1,000. It's like a seed. Think of it at birth. Kind of similar to how like we get a Social Security number. I believe how it's going to work. They're going to have a signed account with $1,000. The government's going to put it in there, and then I believe that parents claim it, and then you can make annual contributions. The contribution limit is $5,000. You get some tax deferred growth. There are a few negatives though on that. It's tax deferred while you use it, but then when you pull it out, you're paying capital gains tax. And you could use it for college, first home, or this is my favorite part of this account, or you could use it to start a business or purchase a business, which I think that's really cool. Me too.
Love that.
So fun fact, after our last podcast did really, really well. I don't know if you guys know that, but I had a reporter reach out to us. And because both of you are out of the office, I did an interview with him about these Trump accounts.
He didn't want to meet with me?
You were out of the office doing this in person. So he asked for either one of us, and Brent was on an airplane, and you were unfortunately out of the office. So I did the interview, and I thought it went pretty well.
Good job. I saw that. I think we even posted about that. So great job. But yeah, I think it's going to be a topic that a lot of people have already asked us about. I love more investment account options, whether that's for individuals or children, especially. I think the business, being able to use it to start a business is absolutely great. And I think it's kind of like that middle ground between a 529 and an UTMA, right? It has some flexibility with some added features, but it's not specifically focused to education, and then it's not just a free-for-all where you can use it or for whatever you want. And the nice $1,000 seed, like we've already talked about, is going to be a nice kind of bonus for that. So I think this is something that parents, grandparents should be considering. It is another kind of menu option for children, which I love.
So somebody who was born outside of 2025 or 2028, they can't go in, set up one of these accounts right now, correct?
No, they don't get it.
So the window for opening or doing one of these accounts is just basically you were born in 2025 and as of right now through 2028. But this isn't an account that just anybody can go and open for their grandchild or somebody that was born a couple years ago.
That's correct. I think it'll get extended for that reason and hopefully built upon. I think there's some massive pros to these, and I think there's some massive cons to these. If I was to look at ultra high net worth individuals or kind of that high net worth American, let's say they have they're not going to outlive their retirement savings. I do see these being used as pretty good wealth transfer vehicles in conjunction with a 529 account. I think there's some main benefits. Then I think a lot of families probably aren't going to use them at all, and they're just going to have that $1,000 stuck in there. One thing I was talking to the reporter about on the call we did, and he said I'm the only person he interviewed that brought this up, is I said we have to see what the investment mix looks like.
Of course.
Like, what are the fees going to be on the index funds, et cetera? And like, how is this money ultimately going to get invested? Is it going to morph like a 401k? Or is it going to be kind of like how 529s are where, some of them have really, really high fee funds and they're not that good.
Yeah. And who's the actual, what is going to be the process for managing it? Custodian? Is it going to be difficult? And why I'm concerned about that is because that can also deter people from taking something that's a good idea and kind of also turning it into like they're going to look at it as a chore and just don't do it, right? And it's just going to stay there for $1,000 forever and not going to be used to its full capability.
So
I
when
really
can
like
people
this.
start opening these accounts?
When their child's born, I think it automatically happens.
Yep.
It's not like something you're not gonna contact me or you or any advisor to open these accounts for you. It's not like a 529er. It's a government sponsored account.
It's not like a state sponsored custodian.
So how do people put this money into it though? If they automatically put the $1,000 and like how does somebody add to it? They get like a signed in account number of some sort and then they're going to be able to contribute to it.
I think like Matt said, like Social Security, right?
Yeah.
You're born, you get a Social Security number, you have an account. You will be pretty similar. I think all of those details are yet to be. I haven't seen too much information on that part of it yet.
Yeah, truthfully, Brent, we don't know that part yet. I would imagine there's going to be a lot of misinformation coming up on these accounts over the next 6 months. I mean, we were just talking a few minutes ago about the email Social Security sent out about Social Security being tax-free. So I'm sure there's going to be a lot of miscommunication.
A lot of talk about private equity being available in 401ks. It's just going to be private equity options in these SAGA accounts.
Yeah, I saw that. Yeah, but overall, it's good. Hopefully they continue the program.
Yeah, I think the one thing that I would say about that is the same thing that I said the last time we were on the show is just a great opportunity for people who, would never be able to save $1,000 for their kid to be able to put that money away or have that money be put away for them to give them some kind of head start in the future where they can cash that out. I mean, I think there's a lot of worse ways that the government spends money. And I think this does give some foundational pieces to them. And you already have an account opened up. And maybe now when they get a birthday check for their kid, they're not just going to go throw it in a savings account. Maybe they'll throw it over to this account and it has some growth on it. And, there are going to be people who take advantage of this and benefit from it. And I think this will be really helpful for them.
I agree. Well said.
Yeah, well said.
All right, let's talk about the market because the market is at all-time highs. And this was unthought of when we were sitting, having this conversation back in early April and the market was just tanking. And then here we are back to all-time highs. The S&P and the NASDAQ hit new records in July. And companies are having strong corporate earnings. We're seeing this kind of expansion in AI and in tech. And there's now this, updates on the new tax policy, which has been extremely helpful. And the 10-year treasury yield stable at 4.25%. I mean, what's your guys' thought on all-time highs and how should people be responding, whether it's in their portfolio, in their retirement accounts, or 401ks or IRAs? How should people be thinking about this?
I think
my first thoughts, just keep buying. I'll go quick.
Yeah, I agree with Josh. I think what most people do is they see all-time highs and they say like, hey, I want to pull my money out and I'm going to wait for the market to crash and I'm going to get back in. And that's just not a proven strategy at all. In fact, actually, you want to buy, Josh is 100% correct, when the market's making new highs. That's what the data says. The data says buy stocks when the market makes new all-time highs. And so right now, this is a market that is going higher until it proves it's not. So, I mean, I'm excited. We talked about this back in February that we thought this is going to be a pretty good market. We had the tariff hiccup in April. But yeah, all systems go right now.
We talk a lot about with clients about the timing to rebalance. And at times when a client's portfolio gets too high in stock or bonds, we will trim some of the winners, and we'll buy underweight sectors. And do you think that this is a time to potentially rebalance, or do you just kind of stay the course and not take any chips off the table at this point?
I think it's client specific. It's the reason why you want to hire an advisor because they'll walk you through your own portfolio and give you a personalized set of recommendations. In general, it's just going to matter, how much stocks you have compared to like what your plan says you need, right? At the end of the day, that's what drives a rebalance decision. So just making it more personalized for the client.
I agree. And I think that's where an advisor helps on just the behavioral side, right? Where do you feel comfortable? Because I also don't think, it should be the only thing you're thinking about or a decision to rebalance shouldn't be keeping you up at night. but it also should be continuously discussed, because today isn't the only day you should be asking yourself if you should be rebalancing. You should have been asking yourself that even a month ago or 2 months ago or at the beginning of the year, right? Because we've been breaking new highs, to start the year and then now again. So if you're not asking yourself that question all the time, you're not doing your portfolio good service, and you should be.
I feel like anytime we hit all-time new highs, we get a lot of that sentiment from people that they sit on either the sideline with cash, or they want to prolong buying. They don't want to buy because the market has hit new highs. And then, sometimes when the market's low, they're afraid to even get in then. But like you're saying, Matt, like right now could actually be a very good time to buy, even though the market has hit highs.
Yeah, so we talk about AI a lot on the podcast, and one of the researchers at Goldman Sachs put a note out over the weekend, and he was saying the next wave of this AI bull market hasn't even started, and it has really nothing to do with AI. It has to do with companies coming out and saying that their profit margins have expanded because they implemented AI systems in their business. We've only been in the investment phase, where what's been going up is like NVIDIA and the companies that are helping to lay the AI pipes, so to say, right? The groundwork. We're not even in the phase yet of this AI bull market where companies come out and say, our business is so much better today because we implemented this AI software, and our advertising revenue increased, or our profitability increased. We sold more product, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah. And I guess, do you see that continuing on for the next several years?
I don't think we've ever seen a technological innovation that hasn't led to a stock market bubble. And most people in technology say AI is going to be greater than the internet. It's most likely the greatest technology that we've all ever seen in our life. So I don't see how we don't end up in a massive stock market bubble. And if that's the case, that means stocks have to go a lot higher from here. But that also means that they're probably going to eventually fall pretty bad.
Yeah, but again, my first comment was just keep buying. You want to buy the run up, and you want to buy the bubble if that were to burst, right? So you could potentially, and I know you said several years, but you have you break new all-time highs, and you have a continuous run up over the next 3 years. You don't want to miss the next 3 years. You don't want to miss the next 2 years. You can put it in shorter time frame. You don't want to miss the next year of return. So not getting into or allowing new all-time highs to kind of give you some paralysis from investing, in my opinion, is probably, of course, if you have affordability and the capability to do so. But I think also someone's best friend through this period is dollar cost averaging, which a lot of people are doing through their 401ks already. So you are buying, and, again, I wouldn't hold back, though, from continuing your dollar cost averaging strategy to alleviate some of that short-term potential risk, just for the potential forecast of a bubble, like Matt's saying, 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 years from now.
Right. Makes total sense. Well, it's a good time to be invested in the market, I'll tell you that. And I think a lot of us would have taken where we're at right now and this result any time of day with where we were sitting in April. And that seemed unlikely that this was going to happen. I mean, a lot of the discussion was that this could possibly last through 2025 and into 2026. And we weren't even talking about being at this point by July, and here we are. So I'm glad we're having this conversation right now versus the conversation about us being down 10-15% in the market. It was a very quick turnaround, and it's very nice that we're at this pace right now versus being at the other one that we were at.
I agree, Brent. Fastest turnaround ever.
Yep.
You know what it feels a lot like to me? This market reminds me so much of that 2020 market.
Yeah, that's the only thing I can think about is just same thing during COVID when the market just hit. It was just like this sort of V. But that one I think was a little bit worse. I could be wrong.
It was down worse, and it took a little bit longer to recover.
Yeah,
but
different of a V shape.
Yeah, this one was still down 20%, and then the recovery has been a lot faster.
Yeah, COVID 34%, right? So a lot more significant, took a little longer, but both extremely quick.
Right.
All right, so let's get into the recommends. You guys got any recommends for us? I know it's been a while.
I have a quick recommendation. Matt, I don't know if you've started to watch the show Sticks. Is it Sticks or Stick? Is it Apple TV?
I've seen some of it. Yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty good. I had watched a couple episodes with go ahead.
I was gonna say, how many deep are you?
I think I'm like 3. It's about an old like golfer who is like having like a midlife event and kind of fizzled out of golf because I don't want to give too much away. But if you like golf and you like Ted Lasso, it's like, it reminds me of, and I know people have said this, but kind of like a golf Ted Lasso type of show. Kind of funny. It's good so far.
See, I think I did 5 episodes. And I just kind of fizzled out on it. I haven't been like, let me put that show back on.
Oh, really? Okay. Yeah, it caught me. So we'll see.
Me too.
Maybe I won't even make it to 5. What about you, Brent? You got to recommend first?
I do. I've been traveling a little bit this summer. One of the things I recommend, I know it's been a super long time, it's many, many podcasts ago, but by traveling, we had to renew our pre-TSA check. And I'll tell you guys, I don't understand why people don't do a pre-TSA check, because it saves so much time. When you look at the difference in lines when you go to the airport with people that have the pre-TSA and people that don't. My brother forgot to add his to his ticket, and it took him probably 45 minutes to an hour longer to get through the security line versus everybody else. It's such a simple process to get pre-TSA. And I'll make one other thing. I don't, Matt, you know this, and Josh, you probably know this also, but, and I think we've talked about this, but you need a real ID now to travel on an airplane domestically. Mm-hmm. And if you don't have a real ID in California, and I don't know, is that a federal thing or is that just state of California?
So it's federal, but you don't need a real ID. You could just use a passport.
Correct. You need one of the two. But I was just wondering how many people don't either have their passport or a real ID that go get on an airplane and don't have those.
There's a lot of people. It was it's a big deal when the deadline hit. It was a big deal. You saw it in a lot of media outlets too, I think, trying to get ahead of it, kind of warning people dates to get emergency appointments, because your thought was right. There are a lot of people that don't have a passport and a real ID.
I don't have a real ID. I don't know if you guys have it. Like, I tried to do it one time. It required me to grab a bunch of documents and take them to DMV. I didn't have time for that. I still don't have time for that, but I've obviously at some point got to make time to go do that. I just travel with my passport ID. But that I'm sure is still impacting people who are going to travel.
I don't have a real ID either, and I got stopped when I was in Hawaii this year.
Did you have your passport?
I did, but I gave them my ID card to see what would happen. And they wouldn't let me fly unless I had my passport.
Wow.
The other thing, though, on the TSA pre-check is all these forms of ID are stupid. When you go through TSA pre-check, the government's scanning your face. They don't even look at your documents anymore.
Right.
They just scan your face.
Yeah. And they take your picture now.
Yeah. It's on that machine, right?
Yeah.
It's probably hooked up to Palantir. It's just probably one of the reasons why Palantir stock's gone from like $7 a share to $150 a share. So like having a real ID, having a passport, I don't know, man. I feel like it's such an outdated piece of government technology.
Yeah, but I'll tell you this, as you've already experienced, if you don't have your real ID or your passport, they're not letting you on an airplane.
I agree. But
you guys don't have it. I have a passport and a real ID. So I guess I'm in the minority of this. So I'm glad I got all my stuff. You guys need to go.
You're the wise one.
You
guys need to get your stuff in line.
But did you do that before you had to go to the DMV to do it? Or did you physically have to go to the DMV? Because wasn't there a time where you could do that?
No, here's the truth. I needed to renew my ID. And it was like, do you want to renew it to a regular ID or real ID? And I did the real ID. So I was kind of forced to do it. It wasn't proactive.
Yeah. Now, from my understanding, when I try to do it online, I have to go into the DMV with documents.
I had to go in.
Oh, you did? Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, so yeah, if you're going to be traveling anytime soon, I highly recommend making sure you have all those things done, because it's going to make travel day a lot less challenging and a lot less stressful, because it just gets you through the line a lot quicker, especially if you're in hot areas or areas that are humid and then they have outside checks like Hawaii does, like pretty nice to have that already taken care of. But so that would be my recommend. If you are traveling, those are good things to get checked off. All right, let's close it out. So as advisors, Matthew, Joshua, myself, we truly love helping people. That's why we do it. We love building financial plans and retirement plans. We love helping people transition from saving money and working hard to no longer collecting a paycheck and being able to live off of the hard money that they've been able to save and work for, and then also enjoy it. And so if you would like any of our information, you can go to evermont.com. You can also get our show notes at retirementplanplaybook.com, which you can find us online also. And if you'd like a consultation with any of us, you can go online at evermont.com and schedule a consultation with any of us. We'll set up a 30-minute phone call and just have a general chat with you. And then if you want to have a second consultation after that, we'll talk about what that would entail. But as advisors, again, we love helping people and would love for you to reach out. We'll talk to you soon.
Thank you for tuning in to the Retirement Plan Playbook. If you enjoyed today's episode and want to stay updated, please click the subscribe button for notifications on new episodes. For personalized financial guidance or to connect with our team, you're welcome to call us at 909-296-7977 or visit www.evermont.com for a complimentary consultation. Your journey towards a successful retirement plan continues, and we're here to help every step of the way. Until next time, keep building your future. The information covered and posted represents the views and opinions of the guest and does not necessarily represent the views or opinions of Evermont Wealth. The content has been made available for information and educational purposes only. The content is not intended to be a substitute for professional investing advice. Always seek the advice of your financial advisor or other qualified financial service provider with any questions you may have regarding your investment planning.